All right, I'm going to call to order a special meeting for CB's Grand Forks for September 5th at 5:33. City Clerk, please call roll.
Mayor Steve Genders.
Here.
Council President Mark Olson.
Here.
Council Vice President Henry Attell.
Here.
Council Member Clark Wright.
Here.
Ben Constantine.
Here.
Dale Helms.
Here.
Brian Larson.
Here.
Karen Peterson.
Here.
Does determine a quorum. Number 1, discussion on 2024 preliminary budget. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Council President and Council. This information was sent to you today earlier. It was put together last Thursday. We had it all ready to send out, and Terry got some really good news on Friday afternoon that the estimate we had for insurance was not correct and that we were off by about almost 20%. So that's why we didn't send it out to you on Friday. So if we look at where we are today on our budget, and I know I've said many times it's kind of fluid, that it's flexible, things change daily, people can change insurance from single to family or the other way, so it does move a lot. There's a lot of moving parts on it. So as of today, when we looked at our assumptions on the bottom, so our assumption is that revenue is based on a 5% tax levy increase from 2023, which was $330,000, and that 1% tax levy increase is $66,000, and that balancing the budget by only the tax levy would be a tax levy increase of at least 10%. It's over 10% now with the $346,000 difference. Budget has a 6% increase for wages to cover any changes from salaries, the salary survey, depending on what survey that's going to be picked, and for any steps that they have, and cost of living expense. On current open positions are in the budget. We are in the process of the Park and Recreation Superintendent closed last week, and the county technician is still open. So total revenues were $13,236,386. Total expenses were $13,582,489. So the difference of $346,103. Any questions on that page?
I guess I'd like to note that the budget for the wages and stuff, that 6% is just a placeholder in there. So it does not mean we're doing that. So I guess I want to make sure everybody knows that because we do start
Thank you
next
for
week.
that. Thank you.
So
I have a question regarding the insurance.
Yes.
With it going up at that 29%, what conversations do you end up having with the employees? Because that falls back on them as well, right? Because they have to pay a certain percentage, so the amount that they're paying also. Is it feasible? Is it something that you go out to look for a different vendor?
Did you want to answer that, Reed?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
As Mark referenced, with many negotiations scheduled next week, all the bargaining units, the insurance contribution share is certainly a part of that discussion with all the bargaining units. And then typically non-bargaining units kind of fall in line with whatever the bargaining units end up at as far as the cost share for the increase. Whether we would go out again for new quotes, the company that helps gather all the insurance pricing for us. We did this a year ago, the same thing. We were facing a 50% health insurance increase, and we were able to, with a lot of work with that insurance provider, go out for new bids and come back with, I think it fell in line with more of a 20 to 25% increase last year. But that said, they've basically recommended that in this circumstance this year, with our claim history as a city, that we should just stick with what we have. The fear that we won't get the same results again by going shopping again so quickly. Last year when we went out and shopped the market, we got a couple of okay quotes back, but only at a 1-year agreement with the caveat that they'd be able to reopen it for potential increases this year. So we have a meeting scheduled with them on Friday this week to talk about if there's any flexibility in that 29%, if we think we can get it to come down at all. And we can certainly address that potential of shopping again, but their early recommendation on Friday last week was that they would not recommend we do that this year.
I'm just curious, just because you indicated that it was a 50% increase for some of the other ones. Well, now you're currently at that 50% increase, because if you did 25% last year and now you're at 29% this year, that 50% was reached and then some.
Yeah.
I'm just curious as to what kind of leverage you have with that. Is it, and I don't know where they came up with that 29%. Is it just healthcare in general? Is it because of the claims?
Yeah, it's largely, a lot of it is based on our city claim history with our current insured. Probably not to an entirety, but that there's a good sample size going back to 2021. They're looking at our claim history and coming up with that recommended rate increase for that purpose.
Anything else? What is this contract going to be? Is it going to be 1 year again, or is it going to be multiple years?
I think that's still open for discussion at our.
And if they're going to go just like this now again, I mean, we need to look at multiple years of something.
Was the last, I'm sorry, was the
was 1
last
year.
year a 1 year contract?
Yes.
Yeah, and we didn't, I don't recall, my recollection says that weren't offered more than 1 year last year when we went out and shopped the market, that everyone that came back with an offer just came back with a 1 year offer. And so we took the chance, we switched providers or switched networks, and by doing that, we kind of took that chance that we were going to save significantly for 2023, but knew that there was always the chance that we were going to see it again this year.
Anything else, man? Carla?
Okay, on the next page, this is actually a little more detailed than the first page we had. So we have a listing of all the different types of revenues. The first line you'll see is the property tax levy at that 5% increase of $330,000. And then we have expenditures broken down between current and then capital. And then if you get to the bottom, it shows again the negative $346,103. And then this also does have the actual for 2021, 2022, and the budget of 2023. Any questions on that page? Yes.
Yeah, so if I'm at a 5% increase and I have a house that's worth $100,000, what is that per resident?
And that is a really hard guess. We are not on the mill system like North Dakota, so I know we had a new reporter, and it put the mill in there when he had that little article, and we've actually trained most of the rest that it's not a mill system. So it depends on how much property is in the mix. If we add property into the mix and your pie gets smaller, when we get to truth and taxation time, after we set the levy, we see how it kind of affects it, but it's a really hard guess. And so we tend not to even try to do that.
Sure.
Sorry.
We tend to get closer to December, we get a better idea from Polk County.
Yes.
So that way we can, before we set it, we'll know where it's at.
Yeah, and the hard thing is that, on that tax statement, there's 5 other areas that money goes to. So it's a combination of all those taxing authorities.
The
Yes.
other thing that makes it tricky to predict for any individual property owner is if someone's value it goes up more than the average. Like if everybody's value, if nobody came into the pool and everybody's value went up 10%, everybody's tax would go up by that 5% or so. Now you have new properties coming in, and some might go up in value by 20%, some might go down by value in 2%. So you're going to shift a little more of the tax load to the one whose property went up. And I know we've had people call in, what happened here? And sure enough, they'd been undervalued. The neighbors were selling their homes, and very often Polk County is mandated to be within like 5% of recent sales, or the state will come in and go higher yet. And so we can't even rip on Polk County for this, because they're just doing what they're statutorily bound to do to match recent sales, or the state will come and do it for us at a higher rate. So that's the other wild card is sure enough, we can say if everyone's value goes up, it's pretty much net neutral, but it doesn't really do that. One will bounce up while the other holds more flat. That one's going to see a higher increase.
Thank you for that explanation. Okay, so let's go to the next page. So that ad hoc finance committee group, we started meeting probably in like February, I think, and we started going through all of the expenses. And so by time May came, we actually had put together what we had and what we had kind of looked at for savings. And at the bottom there, we were at a negative $702,000. So the ad hoc committee had asked us to put that on there and then put where we are now and then put what the differences are. So on the right, you can see line 1 from that May 18th, 2024, when we looked at it, to September 9th, the increase in there was our tax levy, but actually there wasn't an increase from May to June. The increase was from the year before. That's why it says 0. But if you look down through the bottom, they'll show you what actually went up or down in each one of those areas. So, for example, if you look at line 11 in general government, it actually had went down because of staffing. And we also have an open position, and so we don't have that position at the level that that person left in. So there actually is a savings there. Same with recreation and culture. So if you just look through that, that's where we started in May and where we are now after we look at savings that we could find. And we went through pretty much everything. I don't know if Clarence and Karen want to comment on that. They were part of the group. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of work done to get to that 346. Any questions? So the next page, I took the budget from 2023 to the budget now for 2024, and that shows us the changes in from 2023 to 2024. So line 1 shows that there was an increase in the tax levy at that 5% is $330,000. So you can keep going down. Charges for services, we actually that one went down because of inspection fees. And I put in there that if it was a negative or a plus. And then we go down to the expenditures, and then we have the current ones, and most all of them are payroll increases. And then if you go down the capital, most of those are just that, for example, on line 26, that there's a truck price increased. It was actually supposed to be bought in 2023. We couldn't get it. And now when we look at purchasing it, it's $10,000 more. So any questions on that page?
Just a note, in case you didn't see it in the notes, on the charges for services where we have less revenue in 24 than in 23, we did remove the SRO from the budget. So that's $60,000+ that we anticipated.
It was actually 80 by the time we did it.
Yeah. So we'll see where that unfolds as the year goes on. But for now, just to make sure we're safe, we removed it from our revenues.
And then this page, Reed put together for our last ad hoc financing meeting. I know he presented it to you, but we just threw it in again so everybody could see it again. So we could see where some of those savings were, some of the revenue increases, some of the items we looked at, but we didn't receive approval or recommendations from the council. And then the last section under the purple, the public safety aid dollars that we are expecting to receive on December 26th, and what was decided to purchase those with Chief Hedlund and Chief Bushy and myself and Reed looked at those on how to spend that money. Questions on this page? And then this is a little brief we put together every year. On the left are our visioning goals. If you looked from 23 to 24, The list on the left has gotten smaller because we have actually reached some of those visioning goals. And so these are what we have left that we are still hoping and strategically planning for. So plans for project within fund balance or, maintaining our fund balance. South End Bridge, local sales tax for recreational facilities, restore and maintain trusts, strengthen city-school partnership bond, and upgrade city facilities and streets. So that's something we're constantly working on. We're fortunate to have that building maintenance fund to do a lot of that, just for maintenance for regular buildings. And then on the right, the estimated beginning fund balance from 2023 that we have budget is $6,382,465. And then we put on their projected total revenue and then total expenditures. So estimated year-end fund balance would be $6,036,362. And as a percentage of revenue, that's 46%, and as percentage of expenditures, that's 44%. So, which is within the state guidelines of 35 to 50% of fund balance of your revenues or expenditures. The next page, we just put the revenues into a pie chart so you can have a visual of how that revenue comes in. I believe it's hard to see, but it's at 52% comes from our property tax revenue, and then the rest are broken down by the color of the shade there. And then total expenditures, you can see current expenditures, and those are broken down by different departments, same with the capital outlay and other uses. And then the last page, it just kind of talks about what each department does, their services. And then on the bottom, we have a estimated market home value. So if you look at this band, this kind of breaks down how your property taxes are spent. So this is an actual property that's worth $237,500. Their total property tax is $3,474, and then it's broken down to where it goes to. So 12% went to the Northwest Regional Development Commission, 34% went to the ambulance service, 2.35 went to the watershed. ISD, which is the school district, voter approved 5.21%. And the school district itself is 16.36%, and Polk County is 27.61%, and the city of East Grand Forks is 48% of that total. Questions on any of the pages or this page? Comments, suggestions? I guess the reminder is that by the end of September, a preliminary levy has to be set, and it cannot go up after it's been set. The final levy is due December 29th, I believe, and so we'd have to come up with a preliminary levy here in the next couple weeks. And at 10%, it's still not going to cover that $346,000 deficit at this time.
Basically 11% almost.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions?
I guess I would be happy to hear from anyone on our ad hoc committee if the direction of the council was to find some additional savings to approach a neutral budget. Does the committee have some sort of top items that could be considered for all of us? Not to say any of this is final, but we all kind of know what some of them are, but I think it's okay to have that out there openly as if we need to save some additional dollars so we can all start to prioritize to what our people want, right? How do we serve our people the best with the money that they send to us? Is there anyone who would like to share from the ad hoc committee or any other which way what they think potential areas of savings would be? Can we touch on some of those? I know it's not that much fun, but to begin to consider what that would look like.
So that, excuse me, that second section says budget saving items, which will still need city council review and action, and that is building permit fees. I know Nancy had talked about increasing those fees. They haven't been increased since 2013. She's estimated that by that increase, it'd be $8,000 more revenue. If you go to the next section, potential long-term saving items, which still need research and approval. The first item is park and recreation, snow removal on the west side of Bigland Road. And there's really no budget savings, but time savings and able to prioritize other work areas. Senior center, sale of building and move programs to another facility. Community development, building maintenance, new combined HVAC service agreement, which I believe we've put that out.
Oh, we're meeting with them this week,
Okay, Nancy said they're meeting with him this week.
or next week, sorry.
Okay. City admin, our EDA department, sale of the infill building. Public Works, release RFP for pest control contracts. And do you know where that, Jason?
Still working on it.
Okay, Jason's working on that. Fire department, I know Jeff Bushy said that he's planning a meeting with Polk County and Altru to increase fee to ambulance subsidy program. And then items which, in the red now, items which have been reviewed and did not receive approval or recommendation from city council. The library, to enter agreement with the regional library system that was reviewed and not well received from majority of the city council. Admin department and water and light, combined duties of county technician and water and light clerk, or look to see if that can be done. Police department, transfer dispatching services to the county, and the county is not currently staffed properly to take on East Grand Forks. They do other cities within the county. Engineering, bring engineering in-house, reviewed in city council, renewed with Seth through 2025.
I think I'll just offer a little bit of input on some of these items. The first maybe 2 or 3 that Carla read off, the community development, building permit fees, the parks and recreation, snow removal, those items I believe we're ready to bring to the work session next week for review. The biggest thing, kind of concern I see in my mind with where we go from here in this discussion, to your question, Mayor, is those are really, to me, are small ripples in the grand scheme of the kind of savings we're trying to find. They're going to add up to $8,000 to $10,000 to $12,000 over the course of a year. The items that are remaining on this list that are underneath that green heading that maybe have larger saving impacts to them, they're, as we've talked at our ad hoc finance committee meetings, they're probably more long-term saving goals, like the idea of the senior center building. There may be potential savings there, but are there a lot of savings in 2024, or are they some year beyond 2024? That's harder to place a real finger on at this point. And I think, the discussions of sale of city properties or buildings fall into that same category, to be able to really find real true savings that we know we could have an effect by January 1st. This list, I think, is pretty exhaustive of what we've found at the finance committee level. The piece of it that's not on the list that it all reverts back to is always just our level of service and what services, if we need to see cuts in those, what services does the city council want to see us prioritize? And all of those services have costs and fees tied to them. And at a finance committee level, I would say we've had a really hard time being able to place the right prioritization on that's hard. I think you're asking a lot of department heads to prioritize their own departments and services against others. And so I think if we're going to have that discussion, we're going to really lean on the city council to be able to give us direction on what that looks like.
That would be, to me, that would be appropriate. That really that's our duty, is to come up with that, hopefully to the preference again of the people we serve. Not just limited from our own logic, but tuned into the people we serve.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is personnel really is, when we came down to the bottom line, the only savings now left are personnel.
I guess if I could, the other challenge I have for all of us in the room is to ask ourselves, what bottom line number are we willing to carry in a negative? We've done that a number of years, and very often what we find is that our budgeting process is pretty conservative, meaning we tend to kind of underestimate revenues a bit. We maybe overestimate expenses a little bit, and that's as we should do. And whatever that number is, which we had set at the start of the year, is less of a deficit than what we had initially projected. And Carla, and to all of you, I thank you for doing it that way, because it would be awful if it went the other way, if, we fell short of revenue and our expenses were more, to put us behind the 8 ball at the end of the year, which you guys have never done, and we appreciate it. So I guess that would be my other thought, is everybody ponder what number at the bottom, if it's going to be a negative number, are you willing to go forward from a budgetary standpoint, as we have done some years in the past.
Chief Ellen, do you have something to say?
Yeah, just wanted to touch on one thing related to the police department staffing. Obviously, we have adjusted the overall budget for the police department to not have any consideration for any reimbursement from the school regarding a school resource officer position because of the MOU that has now been temporarily suspended, hopefully temporarily. Should that become permanent, for example, if there isn't a special session called, or when the legislature reconvenes in February, if they do not change that language and we move forward permanently without having an SRO, we would probably be able to eliminate one position within the police department to maintain our regular staffing on patrol. At this moment, we have two. We're short 2, but that is with consideration of having a school resource officer. So if we don't have a school resource officer, we could actually cut one position and maintain our same current staffing that we have on patrol. So that hadn't even come up in our discussions, just because everything with the SRO situation, we've been talking about it almost nonstop for the last 2 weeks, but other than, making sure the negative budgetary aspect was covered, we never really had a chance to consider that there is a possible offset the other direction.
Anybody else have anything? I think you said it well, Mayor, that this is what we're going to have to look at, think about, and over the next few weeks, at least we can set the preliminary, but still we have to work at it. We have to get to the point where we're going to set it at whatever it is. We can always go down, which that's going to be the goal anyway, that everybody knows. So, but anything else from anybody? No, we got kind of a handle on where we're at.
And that's with 5%,
Right.
Like you said, 11% would cover
Right.
now.
So just check the math on that one, though. Make sure.
I just wanted to say that again so the public can hear,
Right,
because,
no.
yeah.
Anybody else have anything? If not, they'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Vetter.
Second.
Second by Larson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried, means adjourned.
I rode by your place on my bike, my motorcycle the other day, in case you heard somebody going by. I had a pretty recreational weekend. I didn't leave town really.